Recapping the big news we brought you at the top of the hour, Nike CEO Mark Parker is stepping down in the new year. He'll be replaced by ServiceNow CEO John Donahoe. We're going to hear from Donahoe tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Mad Money. Check out, though, in the meantime, the reaction and shares of ServiceNow. That stock down 8% right now off the after-hour session lows. Let's bring in Jared Weisfeld, Managing Director and Tech Sector Specialist at Jefferies. Jared, great to have you. Welcome to Fast Money.
Thank you.
So is this drop in the stock warranted in ServiceNow?
So from investors that I've spoken with, I think the biggest reaction has been just a sudden shock. This was just not anticipated. You've had a lot of turnover in the C-suite over the last 3 to 4 months. The CFO stepped down and is going to a startup company called Snowflake in the private sector, and Donahoe was just recently appointed. So I think investors are just taken aback that we've seen such turnover in such a short amount of time.
Is Bill McDermott, the former co-CEO of SAP, is he the right guy? Can he sort of fill this management gap?
Yeah, so they're bringing in an incredible leader. He did such a phenomenal job at SAP. So I think longer-term shareholders are definitely of a positive view in terms of who they are bringing in. But I think it's just more of better understanding the near-term disruption to the market, because it's just a complete shock given that Donahoe has been in front of investors for such a short period of time and has really built up his credibility. So to see something happen like this so quickly is just surprising.
Jared, what's your take? ServiceNow down 25% from the summer all-time highs here. I mean, the whole space seems to be really under pressure here. Sure. The valuation's really rich. They get richer as they go down. This is a $40 billion market cap company trading at 12 times sales. Yeah. What's your take on what's going on in the space right now?
For sure. So the move in ServiceNow has not been idiosyncratic to now. You've seen, to your point, the entire space has had a downdraft over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And investors are very mindful of what happened in Q4 of last year when the entire software complex, the IGV ETF, which tracks the software ETF, was down 22%. This year's a little bit different because IGV is only down about 5% from highs, because you've seen large market constituents such as Microsoft and Oracle really hold up. Microsoft was green for the month of September. It really outperformed the broader market. So parallels to Q4 2018, where under the surface you're starting to see some of these high growth names that had just stratospheric valuations in terms of EV to revenue multiples of 20 to 25 times, not PE multiples. So I think a lot of these names are growing into their valuations, and it's just been a lot of pain. So I think investors that I speak with are generally cautious in terms of thinking about how to underwrite risk for names that are just trading at, fairly crazy valuations.
Jared, when we see software and we see hardware and we see all tech as a whole trading down and trading weak, to your point, if we do see a macro headline, does that rally the entire space? What does it rally the most? Is it software? What rallies the most off that positive headline?
So if you see a positive development in terms of anything that happens with Trump and Xi and any kind of trade resolution, SMH will definitely outperform to the upside. So I know we were talking about this earlier. As you think about just SMH and the pressure that's going to be under tomorrow with Texan, which is a bellwether for the space, on their conference call, they're talking about automotive and industrial really impacting their business, and that's also a function of trade tensions that are impacting. So it's somewhat backwards looking. So to your point, you'll see a rally in the SMH, and that will outperform IGV. But I think that's a really important point in terms of the interplay between SMH and IGV. Generally, when SMH is outperforming, IGV is underperforming. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, you've seen this rotation out of IGV into SMH as cyclicals and values have started to outperform. But now tomorrow is going to be really interesting because all of tech looks like it could be for sale in terms of given what's going on with ServiceNow and with Texas Instruments.
And one last question. What part of technology looks to you to be the most stable valuation-wise, considering the cloud that's overhanging software, regulatory over the likes of Facebook, Texan warning? I mean,
absolutely. So within semis, I think there's a really interesting dichotomy because you're seeing the likes of Texas Instruments obviously have a fairly negative reaction after hours. They're getting 15% down sequentially from a revenue perspective, and shares are under pressure. But within semis, you saw Taiwan Semi last week put up really strong numbers. Teradyne just 20 minutes ago put up really strong numbers. The stock's up 6%. So there are beats and raises, and those beats and raises are really isolated to Apple's supply chain, because Apple's doing fairly well right now in terms of the new iPhone unit sales, and anything related to Huawei. Huawei is actually doing fairly well in terms of 5G handset sell-through within China. So if you're levered to 5G deployments, if you're levered to Apple, you're levered to new technologies such as AI, you're actually outperforming right now.
Jared, great to have you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Jared Weisfeld of Jefferies. Guy.
What's the level in service? Now, first of all, the stock was down today. Apparently, on no news that I saw, down 5%. So it's interesting that somebody had a whiff of this, down another 8.5%. So what's the level you get in? Well, first of all, it is a pretty extensive valuation, but the stock is down from, I think, 300 and change since early this year. If you go back and look, September of 2018, topped out around 203 or so. So past resistance becomes support. 203 is right in the crosshairs. It probably trades there tomorrow.